September 8th, 1915, Whitechapel District, London. Sirens wailing, explosions tearing through brick rowhouses like paper. Catherine, Kate Sullivan, 34 years old, factory worker, throws herself over a 3-year-old terrier named Rex as Zeppelin L-13 drops incendiary bombs 200 yards away. Shrapnel tears through her back. Neighbors pull her from the rubble. She's clutching the dog, both bleeding. The brass dog collar around Rex's neck still glints in the firelight, engraved with an address nobody's reading. She survives 3 days in Royal London Hospital, refuses morphine, keeps asking, "Where's Rex?" The dog vanished during the evacuation. No one knows where. What she whispered to the nurse before slipping into unconsciousness would launch a search across 3 countries. This was the height of the World War I Zeppelin terror campaign. 51 raids, 557 killed. Churchill publicly condemned the raids as baby killers. The collar turned up 6 weeks later in a place nobody expected, and what was inside it changed everything. By late August 1915, Kate Sullivan had become invisible. That was the point. East London factory worker, widowed a year earlier when her husband's merchant vessel went down in the North Sea. She lived alone in a 2-room flat on Whitechapel Road with Rex, a scrappy terrier she'd inherited from her late husband. Neighbors noticed her late-night walks with the dog. Odd, given the blackout orders, but Kate kept to herself, quiet, devout, unremarkable. The brass collar around Rex's neck was the only luxury she owned, a wedding gift from her husband, engraved with the dog's name and their address. What nobody noticed was how carefully she polished it every Sunday after church, checking something the neighbors couldn't see. London was on edge. German Zeppelin reconnaissance flights over the Thames were increasing. Newspapers published sighting maps. Public panic spread like smoke. Kate's hands would shake slightly as she unscrewed the hidden compartment built into the collar's buckle. Inside, a tiny rolled paper, coded letters she couldn't read. Her husband's last words before his ship went down. "Keep the collar safe. Someone will ask for it." No one ever did. Kate worked the day shift at a munitions plant in Silvertown, part of the massive wartime female workforce, filling shells and assembling fuses. Rex accompanied her everywhere. Unusual, but the foreman allowed it. The other women commented on the bond. "That dog follows you like a shadow," one said. Kate smiled, said nothing. What they didn't know, the foreman, a man everyone called Mr. Davies, wasn't just a factory supervisor. He was her handler. British intelligence had been using civilian couriers to move documents since German surveillance tightened on military channels. Kate's husband hadn't just been a merchant sailor. He'd been naval intelligence, died securing German naval codes from a captured U-boat crew. She was the failsafe if his primary handler was compromised, which happened in July 1915 when Davies' predecessor disappeared. The factory became the dead drop. Messages came through shift schedules, foreman instructions, innocuous notes about overtime. Kate never asked questions. She'd check the collar compartment, find new papers, wait for extraction signals that never seemed to come. Rex slept under the assembly tables, oblivious. "Real secrets," her husband had told her once, "hide in plain sight." That line would haunt her. Early September 1915, the message came through a shift change notice. "Move the package tonight." Kate's hands went cold. She couldn't. Curfew was enforced. Police checkpoints on every corner. Moving through London after dark with a dog and coded documents was suicide. She made a decision. Hide the contents deeper in the collar, keep Rex close, wait for a safer extraction signal. That decision saved her life and destroyed everything else. September 8th, 1915, 11:47 p.m. The sirens started. Kate was already in bed, Rex curled beside her. She heard the drone of engines first, then the explosions. Zeppelin L-13 appeared over Whitechapel like a massive whale in searchlight beams. Incendiary bombs fell in waves. Kate grabbed Rex and ran for the hallway as her building shook. A blast wave threw her against the wall. She landed on top of the dog, her body a shield. The last thing she felt before the ceiling collapsed was the cold brass of the collar pressed against her cheek. Then, darkness. They pulled her out 3 hours later. Shrapnel in her back, punctured lung, broken ribs. She was unconscious but breathing. Neighbors formed a chain, passing bodies and survivors through the rubble. Rex wasn't with her. In the chaos, flames, screaming, the crack of collapsing walls, the dog vanished. Rescue workers assumed he died in the debris. Kate woke up in Royal London Hospital on September 11th. The first words out of her mouth? "Where's Rex?" Nurses told her the dog was gone. She refused to believe it. Refused morphine so she could stay alert. Kept asking every doctor, every orderly, every visitor, "Did anyone find him?" The real question, the one she couldn't ask, did anyone find the collar? 2 visitors came on the second day. The first was Mr. Davies, her factory foreman. He brought flowers, spoke in low tones. "We're looking," he said. The second visitor arrived an hour later, a man claiming to be a family friend. Kate had never seen him before. Both were looking for the same thing. Neither found it. By the third day, Kate understood. Rex was alive, and the collar was still out there. Mr. Davies wasn't just a foreman. His real name was something else. His real job, buried in the basement offices of British naval intelligence. After the bombing, he spent 5 days searching the rubble of Whitechapel Road. September 1915. British intelligence was panicking. The documents Kate had been carrying weren't just routine codes. They were decryption keys for German U-boat communications, stolen from a captured submarine crew by her late husband. If those codes reached German hands, months of intelligence work died. If they were simply lost in the rubble, the operation was compromised anyway. Davies moved through the debris like a ghost, turning over bricks, checking shelters, following leads. Bombing had scattered wreckage across 3 streets. Hundreds of displaced animals, dogs, cats, even chickens, roamed East London or ended up in shelters. Davies checked them all. He found 7 terriers. None of them were Rex. Meanwhile, someone else was searching. A German agent embedded in London, working from decoded messages that indicated a courier in Whitechapel. The agent didn't have a name, didn't have a face, but he had the same information Davies had. A woman, a dog, a brass collar. The hunt was on. October 1915, Kate was discharged from the hospital. Her back would never fully heal, but she could walk. The first thing she did was start her own search. She visited every animal shelter in East London, posted notices on church bulletin boards, offered a reward, £5, nearly a month's wages. The public story, heartbroken woman looking for her beloved pet. The secret story, she was racing against 2 intelligence services to recover the collar before they did. Davies found her outside the East London Dogs Home on October 12th. "You should stop," he said quietly. "It's dangerous." Kate looked at him. "I know what's dangerous. I'm still looking." Davies nodded, walked away. He understood what she was really saying. She wasn't working for him anymore. Wasn't working for anyone. She was protecting something personal now. 3 days later, a child came forward. 10-year-old Tommy Fletcher, son of a dock worker, living 2 streets over from Kate's destroyed building. He'd seen the reward notice. "I found a dog," he said, "right after the bombing. He was under some wood, scared. I kept him 'cause I thought his owner was dead." Kate's heart stopped. Where is he now? Late October 1915, Tommy Fletcher led Kate to a backyard shed behind his family's tenement. Rex was inside, thinner but alive. The brass collar was still around his neck, tarnished but intact. Kate's hands shook as she knelt down. Rex recognized her immediately, jumped, licked her face. She held him, crying, feeling the cold metal of the collar against her fingers. Then she checked. The hidden compartment unscrewed easily. Empty. Kate's blood went cold. She looked at Tommy. Did you open this?" Tommy's face went red. I didn't mean to break it, ma'am. I was just looking at the collar 'cause it's real nice. And I found this little screw thing, and there was a tiny paper inside. Kate forced herself to breathe. Where's the paper now? Tommy hesitated. I threw it away. It had weird writing on it. Looked like nonsense. German writing, my dad said. The world stopped. Tommy continued. Dad found it in my pocket when he was doing washing. He got real scared. Took it to the police. Said we can't have German papers in the house during the war. Kate stood up slowly, still holding Rex. When? 3 weeks ago, ma'am. November 1915. Scotland Yard counterintelligence brought Kate in for questioning. Not an arrest, officially. Just questions about how German naval codes ended up in a child's pocket in East London. Kate told them everything. Her husband's real work, the fail-safe courier system, Davies and his predecessor. The night of the bombing. The agents listened, took notes, verified her story with naval intelligence. The documents Tommy's father had recovered were real. Decryption keys for German U-boat wireless communications. If those codes had reached German intelligence, the British anti-submarine campaign would have been crippled. But they didn't. They ended up in a trash bin in Whitechapel, then in a police evidence locker, then in the hands of people who knew what to do with them. Kate's accidental delay, trapped by the bombing, codes stuck with a child for 3 weeks, had actually saved British intelligence. The German agent searching for the courier found nothing. Davies found nothing. The codes reached their destination by accident, through channels nobody had planned for. British newspapers were reporting spy paranoia, German agents being arrested across London. Kate sat in the interrogation room with Rex at her feet, the empty collar around his neck, and realized she'd completed her husband's mission by failing to complete it. They gave her a choice: cooperate fully with the investigation, testify if needed, help identify any remaining German contacts in East London, or refuse and face prosecution for espionage charges. Technically, she'd carried enemy documents without authorization. Real consequences. If German intelligence learned she'd had the codes, her life was forfeit. If British authorities decided she'd deliberately delayed delivery, she faced prison. Kate looked at the men across the table. I want immunity, full immunity, and relocation. They agreed. She spent 2 weeks in protective custody, giving statements, identifying dead drop locations, explaining the courier network her husband had built. Davies was brought in separately. His cover was burned. The factory foreman job ended. He'd returned to regular intelligence work. Behind desks now, no more field operations. In mid-December, Kate's testimony led to 3 arrests: a dock foreman who'd been passing shipping schedules to German contacts, a postal worker who'd been intercepting mail, and a pub owner in Limehouse who'd been running a safe house. The German agent searching for the collar was never found, probably slipped back across the channel when the network collapsed. Kate sat in a safe house in Kensington, Rex beside her, holding the brass collar. Empty now, just metal and memories. January 1916. King George V held a ceremony at Buckingham Palace for civilian heroes. Kate Sullivan was among them. Official citation: for extraordinary courage during enemy action. She stood in a borrowed dress, Rex at her side, special dispensation from the palace, while photographers captured the moment. The medal was brass, smaller than she expected. She clutched it in one hand, the dog collar in the other. Reporters asked questions. What made you so brave? She gave them the line she'd rehearsed. I only did what any mother would do. But her eyes kept scanning the crowd, looking for faces that didn't belong. The ceremony was propaganda. British morale needed lifting. Zeppelin raids continued. By January 1916, London had endured 15 attacks. People were demanding revenge. Kate understood her role. Symbol of resilience. Proof that Londoners wouldn't break. What the public didn't know, the medal came with conditions. She had to leave London. New identity, No contact with anyone from her old life. Rex came with her, the only witness to everything. But the collar stayed behind. Evidence. Naval intelligence kept it in a vault somewhere. Empty metal, full of secrets nobody would ever fully tell. The private cost was silence. Kate Sullivan. The name went into a file cabinet in Whitehall. She became Margaret Hayes, relocated to Edinburgh, Scotland. Far from London, far from the bombing sites, far from anyone who might recognize her. The War Office arranged work in a military hospital, nursing shell-shocked soldiers returning from France. Rex came with her. The dog was old now, slower, but still faithful. He became a therapy animal, wandering the hospital wards, letting traumatized men pet him while they recovered. Kate wrote one letter before she left London, to Tommy Fletcher's family. Thank your son. His honesty saved lives. She didn't explain how. The letter was delivered by a naval intelligence courier. Tommy would never know the full story. His father probably guessed. Kate never saw Davies again, never saw Whitechapel Road again, never visited her husband's memorial. His body was never recovered from the North Sea. She lived in Edinburgh under her new name, worked at the hospital, kept her head down. The war ended in 1918. She was 37, alone except for Rex. The brass collar was gone. She bought a new one, plain leather, no compartments. Some secrets you carry, others you let go. 1921, 3 years after the war ended. Kate, still using the name Margaret Hayes, received a package from the War Office. Small box, official seal, delivered by courier. She opened it in her small Edinburgh flat, Rex asleep on the rug beside her. Inside, the brass dog collar, polished, restored, gleaming like it had in 1915. A note accompanied it, typed on War Office letterhead. With gratitude for service rendered to His Majesty's government during the Great War, the collar is returned to its rightful owner, with appreciation for sacrifices made in the cause of victory. No signature, no explanation. Kate turned the collar over in her hands. The engraving was still there. Rex, 42 Whitechapel Road. The address no longer existed. The building had been demolished, the street rebuilt. She checked the hidden compartment. Still there, still functional. Empty. She sat for a long time, holding the collar, listening to Rex snore. He was 9 years old now, gray around the muzzle, arthritic in his back legs. She attached the collar one last time, but left the compartment open, empty and visible. A memorial to what it had been, what it had carried, what it had cost. Outside, Edinburgh rain drummed against the windows. Somewhere in Whitechapel, life continued without her. Some secrets protect you by being discovered. Others protect you by staying hidden. Kate learned the difference between the two on a September night when the bombs fell and everything changed. She never went back to London, never reclaimed her real name. Margaret Hayes worked at the hospital until 1945, then retired to a cottage outside Edinburgh. Rex died in 1923. She buried him in the garden, the brass collar around his neck. When she died in 1956, alone at 75, no one at her funeral knew who she'd really been. The obituary listed her as Margaret Hayes, retired nurse, no surviving family. The collar transformation was complete. It started as a wedding gift, became a spy courier tool, ended as a memorial to a husband she never got to bury properly, and a life she never got to live. The War Office file on Catherine Sullivan remained classified until 1992. Even then, most of it was redacted. Naval intelligence never confirmed the details. Davies, whoever he really was, died in 1963, identity unknown. Tommy Fletcher lived to 92, never knowing the paper he'd thrown away had been worth more than all the money in East London. Heroes aren't always the ones who succeed. Sometimes they're the ones who survive their own mistakes, live quietly with what they know, and never ask for credit. The collar stayed buried in Edinburgh, the legend stayed silent. And the secret? That went to the grave twice, once in the North Sea, Once in a Scottish garden.